The scales were imbalanced. It was stacking up, not against you, not against you, because now it's like this. There's a major imbalance, but it's stored up. It's stored up, Spirit said, for you. And now things are coming back into balance. Good afternoon. Welcome to LettiSpeaks. If you're new here, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you for stopping back by. If you like my content, like, share, comment, engage. If you want to comment, that would be wonderful. I would appreciate that. But if you like just listening, that's fine too. So today I got a vision. And in that vision today was a picture of scales. You know how Lady Justice holds scales? She has like this scale. She is the scale, but she's holding the scale in representation of what she represents. And there's like two sides. In my vision today, as I was going about my day, these scales were tilted severely. They were severely tilted, which gave me the indication of some type of major imbalance. I don't know why gross imbalance is coming up, but it was an indication of a major imbalance, right? And then I began to think of several different scenarios and situations. Like, for some of you, you could be someone who has always had a sense of reverence in life. And not that this is something that you had in and of yourself, but this is something I'm getting that was, and I'm going to use the word coerced, right? It was something that was coerced. For some of you, this would come in the form of giving, even in situations where people maybe were taking, right? This would come in the form of you being kind to people, even in situations where people weren't being kind to you, right? This would come in the form of going out of your way, to make sure that people were good, make sure that people were okay and their needs were met, even in situations where those same people would not cross a puddle for you. This is even going so far for some of you. I see situations where even as you were growing up, there were times where even if you wanted to cross over to the other side of the fence and have this very non-reverent attitude and spirit where you're like, well, forget it. I'm going to be all about me, like everybody else is all about them. Even if you wanted to have that type of attitude and approach to life, you weren't afforded the ability to do that. You weren't afforded the ability to do that. The scales were always turned in a way where even in situations where you attempted to go that way, you couldn't. And I feel like you were always made to be responsible. You were always made to take the high road. You were always made to have a high sense of integrity as it pertains to how you do things. And in this example that I'm thinking of, in this situation where we're talking about the scales being tilted majorly, like this could be a point of frustration for you as well, for that fact. It's like, how is it that everybody else gets away with so much and you were never able to get away with anything? You were always the child, that was always like everyone else. Say everybody, went into the kitchen to steal a cookie. We weren't supposed to have cookies, but everyone else went into the kitchen to steal a cookie and got away with it and enjoyed that cookie. But as soon as you went in there to get you a cookie, after everybody else, mind you, have gone in and got a cookie, you got caught. Not only did you get caught, but you were held responsible for the 6 other cookies that your cousins and your siblings stole, right? So no one else got in trouble. You were the only one that got in trouble. And you took on the responsibility of all of those cookies that went missing. You may have even tried to make other people be responsible. Nobody else were held responsible but you. There's always been like this high level of reverence. Not that you wanted to live such a high standard, but it was almost like life has always made you live up to this high level of this high caliber, this high level of standard. And so I'm getting all this stuff as I'm going through my day to day. And what stood out was the scales that I saw imbalanced. And because of this, because you've always been the one which seemed to get the short end of the stick, but getting the short end of the stick doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. You actually always were the one to be made to follow the rules. You were always the one that went above and beyond what was expected. You were always the one that tried to be the good influence for the whole, right? You were always the one that had the level of reverence in every situation and tried to bring a sense of right into the situation. However, you always ended up getting the brunt end of the stick. And at first, as all of these scenarios and all of these things, I feel like Spirit was bringing along with this message about this tilted scale. That's what I'm going to name this, the tilted scale, right? Along with that, I started to think that that's what Spirit was talking about. This injustice, what seems like an injustice, right? This level of imbalance and unfairness that we would think would be the reason why Spirit showed me this imbalance, but that wasn't it. Because after showing me that, and I have to say that I agree, and I chime in with that because I'm there too. It's almost like, well, how is it that you can get repaid a snake as the pay for the good that you've done? Who would repay you a snake for good, right? Who would do that? Certainly not God, right? Certainly not God. God wouldn't do that, but even as I think back on situations in my life, all of that rings true. It chimes in for me. That's why it came in so clear. Even so far, I began to think back of specific situations that were just like that. One of which came up, there was a time where we all went swimming with cousins, and we all had a certain amount of money to spend. And after we got done swimming, if there was any money that we had left, we were free to go and spend it at the concession stand to get what we wanted. Now, mind you, everybody had money to spend, to eat, to squander on whatever it is that they wanted. Now, when it came time for us to leave, if you still had money, it's almost like, okay, well, let's go run over here real quick and get what we want, because we didn't spend all our money while we were in the swim part. And so I was one who actually was able to hold on to some of my money. I didn't spend all of my money. Some of us did. We spent all of our money while we were swimming. Now, when it came time to close, before leaving, I ran over to the concession bar and got what I wanted. And because I didn't spend all my money, I was able to freely choose what I wanted. Now, we're all riding back in the car home, and I believe one of the cousins asked me, could they have some of mine? And I may have been a little bit selfish, if you want to call it that. But in my mind, I'm thinking, wait a minute, you had money. You spent your money while we were in the park swimming. Not only did you spend your money, you didn't come over and share any of that with me. So I don't feel obligated. Not that I wouldn't, because I was pretty kind cousin, I think. But not that I wouldn't have shared it, but it's like, you didn't share what you brought with me, what you bought with me. So why should I share what I have with you? But that was frowned upon. Not only was that frowned upon, but there were things that happened to teach me a lesson, because I didn't want to share what I had bought with my money. Mind you, everybody had money that they were able to spend freely. Why was I the only one that was reprimanded or scolded because I didn't want to share what I had? No one shared with me. It was stuff like that. And so there were lessons taught around that I still remember. For some reason, that came up today, but that would be a great example of being held to a higher standard than everybody else. It's not so much of what happened. We're not holding grudges and all that, but I'm using that as an example of how you were always held to a higher standard than everyone else. Things that everyone else got a pass for, you not only were held responsible for, but there were lessons taught to reinforce the fact that you were supposed to act a certain way. And there was other things that came up too. It's not coming to my mind immediately. It's slipping my mind, but it's stuff like that. And so this tilted scale that came in really clearly today, and I think it was really talking about karmic justice, right? Karmic justice. The word karmic means, when it really boils down to it, all it means is lessons. It means experience, lessons in life, things that teach us something. It also means, balance that comes into play as a result of decisions that we've made, right? When we talk about karma, it is a balancing of energy, is what it is. So if you put out good energy, guess what? The law of karma says that you will get good energy back. If you put out negative energy, guess what? The law of karma says that you will get that energy back. And it's a law that cannot be overwritten, right? And so this tilted scale, I feel like, has a lot to do with karmic justice. Because again, I said I'm seeing this scale that's very imbalanced, bringing in the energy of justice and these lessons that you have learned through life that may or may not had anything to do with you per se, or who you were, or what you did. Because again, a lot of this was above you. A lot of this was the universe placing on you. It really, I feel like in certain circumstances, it had nothing to do with you, but it had more to do with the circumstances being placed on your life. And so first, when I first saw this tilted scale, I was like, dang, that's tough, you know? And those are just a couple of examples, but looking back through your own life, you know how that played a part in your life. You know how unfair things have seemed for someone who always seemed to try to do it right. And when you try not to do it right, it's almost like you were redirected in the right path. You couldn't even do it wrong if you wanted to, because God wouldn't let you. You are always held to a higher standard. And even in times when your heart was right, there were still somehow things were skewed and they went wrong. And, you know, there were things that shifted out of context. And there were still lessons being learned, even around things that you did right. And so what Spirit began to tell me, the shifted scale is it's not about the unfairness that you've experienced, but that shifted scale represents the karmic justice of things coming back into balance. And Spirit began to tell me how things are shifting in your favor, and everything that has been taken out of balance, for every time that you were made to take the high road when other people took the low road and you took a loss, it was piling on that scale. For every time that you did right by people, knowing that they were doing you wrong, it was piling on that scale. It was piling. For every time that there were lessons that you had to learn, even when you made the right choice, even when your heart was right, and things shifted out of context and you still ended up going around the karmic wheel. It had nothing to do with you. Things were piling on that scale. For every time you had to share of your abundance and nobody had to share with you, right? Things were piling on that scale. The imbalance was growing greater and greater. Things were piling on that scale. For every time that you had to take the rap for everybody that was involved and no one else took responsibility, you were the only one held responsible. Things were piling on that. My phone overheated. I had to start it again. But for every time the scales were imbalanced, it was stacking up, not against you. Not against you, because now it's like this. There's a huge a major imbalance, but it's stored up. It's stored up, Spirit said, for you. And now things are coming back into balance, right? And everything that is owed to you is now being slid down to you. It's coming down to you. And don't consider yourself at a loss, because it's a double win for you, is what I hear Spirit saying. Not only did you learn the value of having reverence, right? Not only did you get the value of the lessons that you learned, whether they were deserved or not, you reap the value of those lessons. But you also get the good karma of being willing to learn those lessons. And so there's some things coming back to you. There's some things that's owed to you that you are receiving, that's been stored up for you in high places. And Spirit says, you shall have them. You will have them. They're yours. You've earned them. The tilted scale is no longer tilted. It's being balanced. Finally. I'm immediately thinking of Job. I don't know why I'm thinking of Job, but he's coming to mind. And for those of you that know the Bible, you know that Job endured suffering. The story is there was a discussion that the enemy had with our Creator, and the Creator, having this discussion, maybe was challenged by the enemy. Maybe the enemy challenged our God's authority. And if it wasn't that, maybe there was a challenge to our God's ability to keep his creation. In that challenge, there was an offering that was given, an offering that was made, and the offering was a certain individual by the name of Job. Not that Job was a perfect man, because none of us are, but he was seen in a light of being worthy of being tested. Oof. Of being tested. And for some of you, you may be saying, I've been tested my whole life, Maybe you've been seen as worthy. Maybe. Job was seen as worthy. And so he was put out there to be tested by this energy that we consider the enemy, or we could just call it by adversity. Through this testing, what happened is there began to be things that would happen that would offset the karmic balance in Job's life. Things like natural disasters would come and wipe out all of his wealth. In those days, wealth meant farming and land and livestock and crops, right? And so other things would come to test his reverence as well. Things like he began to lose children, physically lose children. He began to lose relationships. People began to challenge him and turn against him, right? Even to the point where his body began to be attacked. He began to lose his very health. And some would say that even to an inch of his life, and all of this happens not because Job did anything to offend God or the Creator, or to offset the balance of justice, of karmic justice, but all of this happened per se. The story is because Job was considered to be someone who was worthy of testing. And it could also be because there was something of a higher calling that Job was assigned to. Nevertheless, there was an offset of karmic balance in Job's life. And when it was all said and done, when the testing was over and things played out however they did, the story is, after losing all of this stuff and having everyone, all of those that he trusted, turn against him, he didn't have anyone. He didn't even have himself. He didn't even have his own strength or health. Yet and still, he still stood in a position of reverence. He didn't go off killing up people because he lost kids and because all of his wealth was burned up. He didn't go off, starting trouble and blaming people. And he didn't go off, massacring large amounts of people because his life went off track. Matter of fact, what he did is he went in hermit mode. And for those of you that aren't into tarot, what hermit mode is it means that you pull away from everyone and everything and you go into a solemn place where it's just you and your higher power, if you subscribe to one. Whatever that looks like for you, we all see that different. But you pull away from everyone and everything to seek wisdom. And this is not manly wisdom. This is higher level wisdom. This is to go within, to search yourself, to search your heart, your mind, and your soul to see what's going on. Why is this happening? Did I do something? He went there. He didn't turn the anger or the frustration outwardly, but he went inside to seek for answers. Little did he know that he was considered to be worthy of being placed in a position to withstand the test. Is what it was. The story says it was a test. Because someone in the spirit realm, someone in the higher realm, believed in this person so much that they were willing to bet on his reverence. And if you're on the other side of this, where you've always been the one that's been able to skate through stuff and never get caught, you've always been somebody that's able to do people dirty and walk away like your hands is clean. You've always been someone that's been able to skate through and slide through and never be held accountable for what it is that you've done. You're not going to understand this, because I'm talking to a group of people that know what it feels like to be lied on, when all you wanted was to help. When all you wanted was to care and show that you cared. Because in that's what fulfills you. That's what makes you happy. Seeing other people happy. Like your happiness is outwardly fulfilled. Or maybe it has been at some point in time. And even that has been a lesson, huh? But if that's you and you can't identify with being on this side of the scale, this message is not for you. If you're the one that's always dodged and slipped and slid and dipped and dodged, right? And bobbed and weaved, this is not for you. You're not going to relate to this. But if you know, you know. But that tilted scale, Spirit is saying that the balances are coming back, right? And to let you know how it ended for Job, he did lose everything. But when it was all said and done, everything that he lost was given back double. So he was given back double for his trouble. Everything that he lost was given back double for holding reverence while the scales were imbalanced. He was given back double. I don't know about you, but that says something for me. Because again, karma is a natural order. Just as sure as we're sitting here breathing air, it's a natural order that can't be overlooked. It can't be escaped. It can't be avoided. It's true. And it's a fact. And so, as I go back to that vision that was given to me about the scales, as this message began to unfold in my mind, I thought it was more about the injustice, but it wasn't about that, but it was about the bringing back into balance. It was about karmic justice. And so it's a good news message is what it is. Something to look forward to, something to hold on to and to understand, and to be ready for. Because there's something, and I'm seeing in that vision, I'm seeing just everything that's old kind of sliding down, right? All of a sudden, it's just sliding down. Here, this is what you're owed. Here, and it's just sliding down with ease too. On the way down from the mountain, it was hard getting up, but on the way down, it's a breeze. It's just sliding down. So that's for somebody. That's a big message. That's for somebody. And so, and I'm hearing Spirit say that you will not die before this actually comes back around, before those balances are evened out in your life. It's going to be this lifetime, not the next one. It's going to be this lifetime, baby. And how sweet it is. How sweet it is. So stay sweet is what I hear Spirit saying. Stay sweet and do what you have to do. Stay reverent. Stay balanced. And understand that everything that you've endured had a purpose. And it wasn't for nothing. It was purposeful. Everything is. Mm-hmm. The tilted scale was really, it was a blessing in disguise. Waiting to be revealed. So I hope that's for somebody, and I hope you run across this message. Matter of fact, let's speak it. I'm manifesting that whoever this message is for, we're putting this out into the atmosphere. Whoever this message is for, it will reach you. This is a timeless message. So if you see it today, perfect. If you see it next week, perfect. If you see it a year from now, perfect. 10 years from now, if this message is still up and available, it's going to resonate. It's timeless. And so for whoever this is for, that's for you, babe. It's been Letty Speaks. Until next time, y'all take care. Don't forget to like, share. Don't forget to comment. Talk to me. I'll talk back.